Howdy, folks. I just wanted to share this video with you from Tucker and a podcast with Adam Carolla. Very interesting. I shared it on Facebook the other day, but I wanted to get the video out there. I wanted to watch the whole video, make sure none of it was cut or whatever. I'm not putting the whole video up, just that little part. Same thing that Adam Bongino or Dan Bongino, sorry about that, put out there. But I think it's quite interesting. They will do anything to keep Trump from being elected. He even mentions quite possibly assassination. Who knows? War Powers Acts, going to war. I turned off the news a long time ago. I watch a little bit, but none of the mainstream news. But I always liked Tucker. And I think Tucker's right on. I know some people don't like Tucker, and that's okay. It's still a free country as of yet, but let me know what you think about this Tucker Carlson interview. I did another video that I'm talking about drying up the Euphrates River, Gideon's 300, and I think the reason I wanted to share it because to me it all plays in right together with these things that I'm seeing. So let me know what you think. Hope you enjoy the video. Tucker Carlson says we're going to war. They could take us to war. Let me know what you think. Think about that. God bless you all.
The future holds. Is it?
I don't know.
I mean, are they going to let Trump be president?
No, of course. I mean, look, if, they protested him, they called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times. And every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that. But I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them they just can't have him. I mean, they're putting him on trial in March of next year in the J6 case, which basically consists of trying to send him to prison for the rest of his life for complaining about the last election. That's literally what it is. Again, if this were happening in Moldova, the State Department would issue an all-hands-on-deck order to let the world know this is not a legitimate government. And yet our government is doing it. It's like it's hard to overstate how bad this is. And I don't know where it's going, but there's a collision that's clearly imminent. And by the way, the president is senile in a way that's impossible to deny. Biden's not running the government, so like, I don't know, man. I've never been this worried about anything as I am about where this is going.
Well, I think if we sort of break it down into sort of steps or chapters, we have this and then a possible solution at the end of the book. So chapter 1, the government is doing what they've been doing, and we've not been aware of it for most of its existence. And we just sort of went along with it, But the government is big and it's deep and it's very interested in hanging on to its power, and all the agencies we've mentioned before this. That's number 1. Number 2, the part that most Americans didn't see coming is how the media was also very complicit in this and got sucked into the governmental side of it because they're the town criers. They're going to have to ring the bell and inform everyone in the town what the government is doing. So in certain cases, when it comes to Trump and Russian collusion and Putin's puppet, that they need to add a lot of creatine to and steroids to and really build that thing up, if not create it from whole cloth. When it comes to Hunter Biden's laptop, that needs to be crushed and smashed. When it comes to COVID, Fauci needs to be elevated, and anybody in the Great Barrington Declaration needs to be pulled off of Twitter and destroyed. So that's the media, and that's what they're doing. Then that trickles down to the people. And then when you talk to most people, they're really just saying what they heard from the media, who they think is unbiased, but is really doing the work of the government. So now we have a triple threat. We have the government doing what they need to do. They have the media with their marching orders. And then there's the good people of the village who really don't know what's going on. They just watch CNN or they watch Rachel Maddow talk to Chuck Schumer, and they go, well, that must be the way it is, and they get sucked into it and almost can't be blamed because they're more naive than they are evil, for sure, the average citizen. Now, there are people like yourself, and there's all these other entities, and there's all these other platforms, and they can no longer corral everybody. The sheep are getting over the fence, the gate got knocked open, and now there's a lot of different voices from a lot of different places. And really, for the first time, I'm hearing sort of normal, non-political people asking questions about Biden or the laptop or Russian collusion or what their persecution of Trump and that kind of stuff. And the question is can voices like yourself and these alternative media platforms, can they arrive in time to stop it?
That's unknown. Here's my view of it. I think the lies are unsustainable. Lying is always unsustainable. You're always found out in the end, whether in your lifetime or posthumously. But lies are always revealed by their nature. And these lies are so big and so obvious and so stupid that it's going to be very clear to the majority of voters before the election that the Biden administration has no idea what it's doing, that Joe Biden is not running the government, and that it's not working at all. And I think by that point, we're going to have a real economic contraction. I think we're going to be in the teeth of a very tough recession, and that makes everything much more intense. And so if your goal is to maintain power, and if you think once you relinquish power, the problem with criminalizing politics is the people who do it imagine or know that it will be done to them. So once you start indicting your political opponents, you know that you have to win or else they're going to indict you if they win, right?
Right.
And so they can't lose. They will do anything to win. So how do they do that? They're not going to do COVID again. I know everyone on the right's afraid they're going to do COVID and mask mandate. They're not going to do that. They can't do that. If they've already been exposed, that won't work. There's going to be no. What are they going to do? They're going to go to war with Russia. Is what they're going to do. There will be a hot war between the United States and Russia in the next year. And
really?
Yes, of course. They want it anyway. I don't think we'll win it, but that's a separate analysis. But I think it's a political matter. They need to declare war footing in order to assume war powers in order to win. I believe that. And I think the evidence suggests that's true. So if you're worried about our politics getting even more vicious than it already is, and people being hurt in our politics, which is entirely possible, you should be worried about the prospect of an open war. We're already at war with Russia, of course. We're funding their enemies. So we're fighting Russia. But I mean, an open battle with Russia where we say we're at war with Russia. I think that could easily happen. I think we could Tonkin Gulf our way into it, where all of a sudden missiles land in Poland. The Russians did it. Our NATO allies been attacked. We're going to war. I could see that happening very easily. So if you're worried about that, you need to put as much pressure as you possibly can on the Republican-held Senate to force a peace, which can be done. The United States could force a peace in Ukraine tonight. We're funding one side. There is no Ukrainian army outside of NATO. If NATO withdrew its support for Ukraine, Ukraine would crumble in a day. So we are the only power in the world that can bring both sides to the table to force a peace, which will be unsatisfactory as all forced peaces are. Like each side will give more than it wants, but that's the only option. Otherwise, I would bet my house on it. We are going to war with Russia. And of course, the stakes are everything, our life on the planet. I mean, these are the two biggest nuclear arsenals in the world facing off against each other. So this is insane. They're insane. These are people who think men can become women who believe that face masks save you from COVID. I mean, these are not rational people. Would they go to war with Russia? Of course they would. Again, they want to anyway. And I don't know why Republicans don't get this at all, but they don't seem to get it. And meanwhile, Republican leaders, and Mitch McConnell's senile too, so I don't even blame him, but all the stupid Republican senators and McCarthy in the House, I mean, it's pathetic. These people are all on board with the war against Russia. Why?
Well, I think it may even be scarier because you say they believe masks work or they believe men can become women and so on and so forth. I don't know that they believe that. I think it may be worse. I think they can say or do anything to hang on to power.
Their view of Russia is very, and I can say this as someone who was, against the Soviets when it mattered, when they existed. But I'm maybe the only person in the United States who doesn't really have very strong feelings about Russia. I'm not that interested in Russia. I don't see it as our enemy or ally. I just don't have strong emotions about Russia. So I look at this and I see true hysteria. Like they've convinced themselves that our global enemy is Russia. And I really think they mean that. And certainly the Republicans mean it. The Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, the low IQ wing of the Republican Party, which is most of the Republican Party, is low IQ at the leadership level. They all think that and they mean it. And someone needs to slap them awake. You're leading this country to its destruction. We've already lost control of the world. The American empire's in free fall right now, and we're going to lose the US dollar. And when that happens, we're going to have real poverty here, like Great Depression level poverty. And it comes from this war. And I don't understand why no one else can see this, but it's super obvious once you leave. Spend a week in Europe and talk to smart people on both sides. It doesn't matter what their politics are, and ask them, what effect do you think the war in Ukraine has had on American leadership in Europe? Dude. And by the way, Western Europe is our only reliable ally in the world. We only have one real ally, and that's Western Europe. And Western Europe is being destroyed by this. The German economy was crushed when the Biden administration blew up Nord Stream. I know nobody cares, but if you think long term about this, they're really kicking the legs out from under this country in a way that is not possible to repair, at least in the short term.